Hi, we are going to hear a story named A Shady Plot, written by L.C. Brown. It is a story of ghost encounter with a writer. It is an unique mixture of horror story combined with humor. This story is all about an overconfident man named John Halak, who is a part-time author of horror stories. Suddenly, a ghost named Helen appears and explains that it were the ghosts who put ideas into the heads of these authors. He also gets help from the ghost in writing the stories. The ghost was against the use of Ouija board and asked him to stop his wife Lavinia from using it. Later in the story, Lavinia got suspected of John. She is even ready to end her relationship. Later on, she realizes her mistake and returns to her husband. Well, seems to be an interesting story. So, let's start the story with the characters first. The first character is John Halak. He is an accountant in lumber company. He also wrote stories on supernatural theme for Jenkins magazine. However, he has no idea on this theme, but eventually he ends up writing excellent stories. Later, he comes to know that ghosts are helping him in writing that stories. He is a hen-pecked husband who is always afraid of his wife Lavinia. The second character is Lavinia. She is wife of John Halak. She is a spendthrift as she has an alarming tendency to spend money on the latest fashion and trends. She is the one who purchased an Ouija board and organized the Ouija party. She may come across as an absent-minded wife, but finally display a genuine love and affection for her husband. The third character is Jenkins. He is the owner of magazine. He believed that John has an excellent capability of writing ghost stories, so he always calls him whenever he needs one. And the fourth character is Helen. She is a ghost who is helping writers in writing ghost stories. In the past life, she is a writer who suffered miserable sorrow. She founded Writers Inspiration Bureau, which gives extended help to those writers who have no ideas. She is angry because the ghosts have to be at the beck and call of the Ouija board, fantastic to answer their questions. She orders John to stop these things in his house. Now, we are going to study the interesting story. The writer, Mr. Halak, was told by his employer, Mr. Jenkins, to write a ghost story. He told Mr. Halak to write a very horrifying story with supernatural elements because the public liked these kind of stories. The writer agreed to these proposals, for no one else printed his stuff. He was surprised how he could have written the earlier ghost stories, for he was not a specialist in this generation. Whenever he had decided to write a ghost story, surprisingly, the plot had appeared from nowhere. The writer sat down to pen the story, though no idea occurred to him. In fact, his mind was wandering towards his wife's shopping trips, other unghostly things. The writer loudly said, "This writing business is delightful, isn't it?" And to his surprise, a voice at the other end of the room said, "Yes, it is." The writer was surprised to see a figure taking shape gradually. It was a woman, tall and angular, with her enormous fishy eyes, wearing spectacles. She came and stood before the writer. The writer wished to know why that woman had come. She gave a very surprising answer, that the writer had only called her to help in writing a story. Moreover, she said that the ghosts were going on a strike, so the writer should stop bothering her for another plot. She elaborated that all the other stories that had been a hit had come from her only. The ghost explained that she had been a writer in the earlier birth, but now she had collected other ghosts like her and set up a writer's inspiration bureau. Now, they extended help to a writer who had no ideas. The writer disagreed with the ghost views, for he had never seen her before. So how could she have inspired him? She explained that she had sat on the writer's shoulder and had given him the plots. But now they were all fed up for being pulled out of beds at all times and had decided to go on strike. The ghost wanted the writer to call all his friends and stop using Ouija board. The conversation of the writer and the ghostly figure was interrupted by the arrival of the writer's wife, who is surprised to see her husband sitting in the dark and talking loudly to himself. However, he was very annoyed over a recent purchase she had made. On the writer's query, she revealed that she had bought Ouija board to help the writer to write the stories. She said that she wanted to make story writing easy for the writer from now onwards. The writer tried his best to dissuade his wife from keeping the Ouija board, but she refused to listen. The writer thought that he would reason with his wife later. Next day, the writer set out for his job. He worked as an accountant for a lumber company and couldn't give up for his job and take to full-time story writing due to financial problems. On reaching back home, he was told by his cook to get ready and come down, as his wife had invited some guests. When he came down eventually, he was surprised to see that their parlor was full of women belonging to his wife's book club. They were sitting in twos, and between two friends there was a Ouija board. Immediately, his wife appeared, and she wanted the writer to be a partner of Mrs. Hinkle, who was without any other friend. Miss Hinkle took the writer's finger and started moving them on the Ouija board. Surprisingly, the words spelled on the board were traitor. Mrs. Hinkle wanted the board to clarify as to who was the traitor. The Ouija board spelled out that it was a Mr. Halak. On inquiry what the identity of the speaker was, the board revealed that it was someone with the name of Helen. This fact created anger in the entire room, and the ladies, along with the writer's wife, gathered around the writer and looked at him accusingly. All the Ouija boards singled towards the writer. The writer couldn't answer. He fled the scene and went to sleep. Next morning, he noticed a slip of paper with the message that his wife was leaving him for a good, and her lawyer would communicate with him. The writer was shocked and surprised at this development. Meanwhile, Helen, the ghost, reappeared and told the writer that she had been sent to ensure that his wife was going to get rid of that Ouija board. The writer was very angry, and he retorted that the ghost had made the writer lose his wife, his home, and his happiness. The writer's wife, Lavinia, entered and told the writer that she was moving out. The writer was trying to shield and cover Helen when his wife remarked that he was behaving very strangely. The cook walked in and announced that she was not going to serve in a place where there were Ouija board and activities relating to curses and charms. Lavinia was in no mood to be pacified. She sprang quickly to see who was standing behind her husband. Helen didn't disappear this time and boldly announced to Lavinia that she indeed was Helen. Lavinia felt very miserable to create such a ruckus and accuse her husband of infidelity. The writer felt inspired and realized that he had indeed hit upon an excellent plot for a ghost story. Thank you.